Mm-hmm.
Cool. Y'all ready to do this?
No.
The party started.
Hey, welcome back, y'all. Street Academy Podcast, where we keep one foot in the academy and one foot in the streets. Right now, we got our folks over here on IG Live, showing love to us. So we recording live. Sometimes we're gonna do that too every once in a while. I actually forgot to charge up my phone, so I got it real kind of like nigger rig right now, with the charger connected to the phone that's connected to the cup holder on my chair, but we gonna make it work. So we here where we bridge conversations that are happening in the academy, where also what's happening in the streets and in the churches and in the folks' garages and on Black Twitter and social media and just everywhere, just trying to bridge these conversations so that we can have a much more robust discussion about things that are going on in our society and in our community. And as you know, my name is Jonathan Grant at J. Paul Grant. That's me, John Paul Grizzle, John Grenzel, Jay Greasy, John Jeezy. I can't think of no more nicknames. That's it right there.
You got the most aliases of anybody I know.
All right, and
Well, I'm Amber.
co-host Amber Camilla. Yep.
Amber Camilla at Amber Camilla. That's all I got for right now.
I am Jackie at Jackie Demission on all the things.
All the things, Jack of the Mission.
AKA Dr. Hater.
Yes, Dr. Hater in the building. Yeah. I think on this topic, I think this is gonna be interesting because on a lot of topics, sometimes most of the time we kind of all agree. I think this is one topic where we might end up being on polar opposites, and so it's going to be interesting to see where the discussion goes, but then also see what our subscribers and people who watch this video, what they think. You know what I'm saying? So, so to start it off, I remember I heard, where did I hear the song? I don't know. I think I was on Tidal, and I just saw it pop up as a new song. I'm like, oh, J. Cole got a new song. Yo, I'm always down to hear whatever you got to say, especially during this time. So I just listened to it. I heard it one time, and I was like, man, this song is so dope. I love this song. And I sent it to a bunch of people. I sent it to Jackie. I sent it to another friend, Audra, Steven, a couple of my other folks and colleagues. And I was like, yo, y'all got to listen to this new J. Cole song, man. And I remember the first time I heard it, I wasn't really paying attention to who he was talking about as much as I was paying attention to the message that he was getting across. And if anything, I forgot he was talking about a young lady. I felt he was talking about me, because when he was saying things like, watch, make sure you're you're not saying things in a way that's making people feel bad, or don't use your knowledge to put other people down. I felt triggered, because I'm like, man, I know that I felt that I've done that in the past. And I also see when I've also felt that other people have done that to me. And I've also seen how other people do it to other people. And so, and I know there was a time in my whole development and journey into enlightenment where I would get so upset when people didn't see things the way that I saw them. And when people, didn't understand when I would talk about social issues. And I probably did say things in a way that might have been condescending, or made me sound like I was holier than thou, made me sound like I was smarter than them. And over the years, I've tried to do better about my approach. And so when the words that he said, I was like, man, I feel like he's talking about me. And hopefully when I train other people, my students, or even my daughter, like, hopefully I teach them in a way to where they become empowered and they have the tools necessary to see the world through this lens, and help to convince other people to see the world through a lens that can help them be more critical. I think Amber gone. Yeah, just to be more critical about the things that's going on in this world. But also at the same time, you have to be patient with people, and you can't get mad or get upset or talk down to people if they don't see or understand or catch on as soon as you do or when you do. And I remember Malcolm X has a quote where he says, don't get mad at people when they don't agree with you or when they don't do things at the same time you do, because you, or think the same way you do, because you didn't always think the same way you did.
Right.
So there has to be some room for people to be able to grow. So anyway, I felt very if anything, I felt like he was talking to me. But then more and more, I started to look online. I started to get feedback from some of my colleagues and friends about the song. And then that's when I started to see, oh, this is, people are looking at it from a different lens than I did. And then, of course, you had the idea that he was talking down to the sister, that there was this tone policing. So the tone policing part came out to where he was saying, he didn't like her tone and stuff like that. And I didn't catch that at first. So I had to go back and listen to it. And when I went back and listened to it through that lens, I really tried to hear what a lot of people were saying. And I listened to it a couple times. I read the lyrics. I did it all, but I still couldn't get it. and I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's my patriarchy or my privilege or what. But there were some aspects I could understand about the conversation and the resistance to what J. Cole was saying, and then some parts I just didn't get. So, yeah, that's kind of my initial.
Listen, if I could just be super honest, I find that a lot of folks who are invested in some of the privileges that they receive from upholding a patriarchal system really just didn't understand it. And I think how I got to the song, I think you sent it to me. That's a cute picture, Amber. I think you sent it to me. Welcome back, Amber.
Sorry.
So you sent me the song, and then I started listening to it, and then as soon as I heard the phrase, "There's something about the Queen's tone that's bothering me," I paused for a second, and I listened to a couple more lines, and I was like, wait a minute, maybe I'm not quite getting it. So I went to look up the song. Once I looked up the song, that's when I saw the whole drama that was unfolding, because I was completely oblivious to what was going on. So I saw what Noname tweeted, then I saw the lyrics of the song, and then I saw that J. Cole responded in a series of tweets. And just all of that together, I think gave me a different context for listening to the song. But I think outside of the back and forth that they were having, the message of being patient with people, not condescending with people who are coming into the movement, is well received, because there are a lot of folks who are recognizing that as a what's the word? As just a situation that's happening now. There are folks who are coming into a consciousness, Black folks specifically, who are coming into a consciousness who were not involved or engaged back in 2013, 2014, 2015. And people are like, well, how could you not know? I mean, even I think about Juneteenth this year, and so many people were like, oh, Juneteenth. And different people were like, I've been on Juneteenth. Why are you just getting here?
Right.
So, there's definitely something to the idea of whenever people learn something is when they learn it. We can welcome them in and be like, oh, great, you got here. What's the next step? Because we don't have to stay right at this first piece of knowledge. We can continue to go on. But I think, I don't know, I'm just kind of still trying to work through some family-friendly language around tone policing. I think whenever I had to actually go look it up, because I knew what it was from having it done to me, but I didn't know like how to fully define it. And what I read was that it's a debate tactic that's used to like steer away from the actual argument. Like it's not about the argument being right, it's about what was said. And again, like, you know, we gotta like really examine this idea that people need to command respect. You know, watch your tone, watch how you're speaking to me. That's like a power dynamic that's going on. And I think when J. Cole wielded that power dynamic in the song, he was leaning heavily into the male-female patriarchal power dynamic.
And I'm assuming, John, you're totally fine with the song. Basically. Okay, yes.
Most part, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so,
for the most part, I mean, so the part I can understand, or what I got from the conversations that I had with a lot of different people, was the term tone. If I didn't get anything else, I understand now, brothers, all brothers who are watching this video or listening to this or whatever, do not use the word tone with sisters. Take it out of your vocabulary, right? Because now I'm seeing, right, that tone has these racialized and gendered connotations to them. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know,
but as you're doing that, I'll just say that it's not just specifically the word tone. It's like anything that has to do with watch how you speak to me. Who do you think you're talking to like that? Like that whole sort of sentiment of you need to watch your words and the cadence of your speech as you say things. Right. And it always baffles me, like having these gendered conversations, because I think our racial analysis is so well developed. If we switched it and said a white person said watch your tone to a black person,
yeah, definitely,
yeah, like we don't even have to go into the analysis,
right?
You know, so it always baffles me, like how like the tools of analysis that we use to understand oppression in one context get so murky in other contexts.
They don't apply across the board. And so I feel like I with that,
was that a lizard?
It was the Florida lizard.
Two lizards that just like one lizard came out, then another lizard was like, that a little bit. Another thing is the mentioning of seniority. So it's just like clearly J. Cole's been in the game longer and he's gonna have, you know, more fans, all that stuff. And so, you know, when it comes to a younger person who's in this thing, I feel like, how do we show respect to this younger person? I mean, I don't follow Noname like that, and neither do I follow J. Cole, but it's just like, and so I'm like, I don't know all the context around the music and like what kind of discourse they've been having and stuff. So I can't speak to that, but I can speak to those basic things of like, first it's a black woman, her being policed in some way. Then it's a black man doing it. And then it's also an older person doing it to a younger person, like somebody who I would hope would be more in like a mentor type stance. Not saying that he needs to mentor her or that she even needs to be mentored. Yet all of us could use some, but just saying, like, I feel like it's like you said, Jackie, like all of those layers being questionable and being like, well, why can't we see how easily this applies? Like if it was a white person, we'd be like, done, but it's a black man, and then it's someone older in a sense too, who has more power and who has more influence, and then coming for this other person. And I mean, I didn't follow the whole story, but I did go straight to the lyrics because I'm like, I just want to see what he said. And once I saw that that sentence, that line that everybody's talking about, like, you know, but when I heard the Queen's tone, it's like, oof, even that, it's like that juxtaposition between respect and disrespect, because it's like you're gonna call her a queen in one moment, but in the same breath you're saying, but your tone though. So it's like the queen's tone. So it's like you're trying to show respect and trying to act like you don't want to just call her a bitch, but at the same time you're kind of like, but I'm gonna come for her in the rest of these lines. Like when he said, and I thought it was just like, oh, I thought this was crazy. He said, oh, instead of conveying you holier, come help us get up to speed. Shit, it's a reason it took like 200 years for our ancestors just to get free, which is a terrible narrative about why it's taken Black people so long, as though it's Black people's fault for how they talk to each other. Like that's the reason why we're not free. Are you kidding me? Like that has, like, the way we talk to each other, like our own dynamics, yes, that might be a part of, you know, our own progression, but that is not the core reason. Again, I feel like that's almost like a Black on Black crime type argument. It's like, no, it's not. Me saying this about this is not the reason why Black people haven't been free for 200 years. That's a leap. That's a huge leap. And then not just that, it's like he I think in this song he made a lot of assumptions about her, which I thought weren't really fair. And I think the very thing that he's accusing her of doing is what he's ended up doing in this whole damn song. And so it's kind of like, you know, you want to, it's like, be gentle with people. Don't just come for people as I come for you. So I'm like, I'm confused by that. I'm confused by the example that you're trying to give. Now, I don't know what ended up happening with the whole story and what happened, but I felt like you really got to look at yourself first before you try to come for somebody else even. It's just like, I think the main thing too is it's just like a hit dog will holler. If that tweet didn't F with you a little bit, you would have been able to process that and be like, okay, well, I'm not that, or I am that. And then what does emotional management look like at that stage? As an artist, a lot of times you go straight to expression, which to me, in a sense, I do not know J. Cole. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze the man, yet I'm saying it's clear that in this moment, it's like he emotionally processed it and expressed it, wrote it, and then now you have this expression that I think it's important for all of us to learn how to make mistakes, or because I would consider this somewhat of a mistake, because it just wasn't. I don't feel like it was thought through enough. Because even if he just did a little bit more reading in her tweets and in her experience, he would have seen that she was not a lot of the things that he was claiming that she was, which is. I mean, we're in a tumultuous time, so people are just moving off of emotions. So I can understand why he probably didn't do that. Yet, it's like, maybe you could process your emotions a little bit more before you put out this whole thing to all these people about this young woman who didn't name you specifically, but because you felt attacked, you then attacked her straight up in a song. I just feel like that's so incredibly irresponsible, and it doesn't take care of our women. It's just like, if you had that much of an issue and you really like how he has this message of solidarity, of education in this song, then if that's the ethos that you're really operating on, then embody that. And you did not. And like, to that point real quick, he says, he said, if I could make one more suggestion respectfully, I would say it's more effective to treat people like children, understanding the time and love and patience that's needed to grow. So you get it.
Yeah.
You get it that you want to be spoken to gently, that you want compassion, understanding, and empathy. And yet, this is practically almost like a diss track. So I'm confused.
It's, yes, the
now, if it wasn't to Noname,
conscious diss battle.
I mean, if it wasn't to her specifically, I feel like it's like this could have been applied to just so many people, and it's just been like, okay, we get it. It's true. Like, speak to all of the kind of highfalutin Black scholars out there and Black activists who have gotten like super mad at people for doing different things and calling people fools and ignorant and sheep and all of that. I don't think that language is helpful, and so I feel that does resonate with me in the story. But I feel like it's the fact that he ends up attacking a young woman that just, I don't know. But John, look, you have much to say.
Yeah, we just said a
lot. Man, I wish I would have took notes, but I'm gonna just try to go off of what I remember y'all saying.
Is that Dr. King?
my reaction was,
is that the Reverend?
The Reverend.
But okay, so the fact that, and I guess I'll put this when I do the edit, the picture of the Public Enemy album, the
yes.
Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, and this is Chuck D, and I think this is Flavor Flav.
Oh, I didn't realize there was
Wait, is that Brother Malcolm?
This is
That's
brother
Malcolm.
El Haj Malik El Shabazz.
Haj Malik El Shabazz.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
John, you got to come a little closer so that everybody can partake in this delicious.
Can y'all
show.
see this? Hold on, let me get
Come
y'all
closer.
so y'all can see this too. Hold on, can I turn it around? I don't even know. Can y'all see this on live?
Let me turn these off.
Boom. All right, I had to show y'all on live. Let me see if I can get y'all here. All right. I got all kind of cameras going. Can y'all see this? I got
That's amazing. I love it. I need to see the reference.
I'm trying to figure out if the good Reverend has cornrows. Does he? It looks like there's a do-rag at least under that.
No, I don't think you got the cornrows because I know.
Okay.
I know the good doctor. He was suffering from what I was suffering, what I'm suffering from. So I know his hairline. And the closer we get to the 60s, the further the hairline start to go back.
Yeah.
Look at the video during the Montgomery bus boycott. It was here. By the time you get to the March on Washington, it was about here. And by the time you get to the Vietnam War, bro, you might as well just go ahead and just take it. But no, I was talking about this because I looked online, and after I ordered it, I went to the people's Instagram, and a lot of people were saying they didn't like the shirt. They thought it was like disrespectful and all this other kind of stuff. And I was like, I didn't see it like that. So I started to resend my order, and I was like, nah, I like it. So when it's, when we go out again, I'm gonna walk outside and I'm gonna see how people respond to it, see if people, find it disrespectful. I thought it was cool, you know what I'm saying, to take such a iconic rap album and put Martin and Malcolm on it. I don't know, I thought that was kind of dope. One of the things I do want to say, Amber, you mentioned that line about how he said it was a reason why it took us 200 years to get free or something like that. I didn't take that line to mean that the reason why was because we talked harshly to each other. I took that to mean it took us 200 years because of the psychological damage that had been done to Black people. And so because of that, it takes us a while to be able to catch on to things because of the oppression that has been done to Black people. It was more than just physical. It was physical, it was emotional, it was psychological, it was spiritual, it was biological. So I took that to mean that because it took us so long to get to where we are because of so much that has been done to us, it's going to take us a long time to undo a lot of the things that have been done to us. I didn't take that to mean that it was because we were talking harshly to each other. At least that specific line.
I mean, when I look at this again, I would say that that's actually more accurate to what it seems like he's talking about, which is his next line is, these shackles be locking the mental way more than the physical.
Right.
And so I think that probably does seem more accurate to probably what he was saying. Right. I can still see how my connection, still feel like he was alluding to her, how she was expressing things.
Yeah,
I can understand that perspective as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, and I don't want to make excuses for J. Cole, because at the end of the day, you're an artist, you have a platform. You put something out, it's gonna get criticized. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. I already kind of know what might be people's response when I say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I hold different people to a different standard, depending on who you are. So I don't expect J. Cole to have the language that Cornel West has. I don't expect Kendrick Lamar to have the language that Michael Eric Dyson has. They're writing songs. They're doing art. They got 16 bars, you know what I'm saying, a few words. They're being creative in the way that they're putting these things together. And so sometimes in that as an artist, sometimes within that creativity, content and meaning can sometimes get lost or diluted or it can because you're not writing an essay or you're not writing a book, you may not be able to go into as much detail as you would like to in order to get a certain point across, because you're trying to be fresh, you're trying to put in the metaphors, you trying to sell a record, you're trying to stay on beat. And so sometimes
that's true.
Yeah, you're trying to stay on beat, you're trying to
saying everything.
Because you could be as prolific as you want. If you're not on beat, ain't nobody listening to that. You know what I'm saying? Like this shit ain't go, cuz you know what I'm saying? What that nigga 3000 say? He was like, if you don't move your feet, then what he said? If you don't move your feet, then I don't eat. So we like neck to neck. Like it still gotta ride. You know what I'm saying? So you trying to do all of that. You know what I'm saying? In you know, in this song and in this music. And J. Cole he's like, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a author, I'm not a lecturer, I'm not a professor. I'm just a dude who evidently stopped reading after he got his degree and is now, you know what I'm saying? He just a rapper and he's good at it, but he's smart, you know, and so he puts things together. So I kind of take that into consideration, not just with him, but with a lot of rappers and artists and things like that. So I don't, I don't pick them apart as much as I would do if I'm reading a book or if I'm reading an essay or like I'm looking at a politician or somebody like that. But again, with that being said, it still doesn't take away from the fact that if you say something wrong, you say something wrong and you got to get called out. You know what I'm saying? You got to get critiqued.
That's the thing. And that's the thing. Like, he put out this song, then people came for him immediately after, like checking him on it. But then like the next day, he basically writes a series of tweets that say, I said what I said. So there was no sort of like grappling with the fact that maybe you said something wrong, particularly given the context of the time, right? Because that was the same week that we found out that Oluwatoyin was murdered in Florida by a Black man, that we then saw a Black woman being thrown into a dumpster by Black men, that we saw another Black woman get hit with a skateboard. And so the conversation about here we are in the midst of this movement for Black people, to advance Black people, but we have to grapple with these gendered relationships that's going on. And then here he comes with this song, like in the midst of all of that. And I think for him to not only have the song, but then like double down and say, I said what I said, like I'm paraphrasing, you know,
but that's essentially what he said though. He didn't apologize. So you said it was kind of a diss track, and I didn't look at it as being a diss track, because when I think of, and I don't know, I'm from a different era. So when I think of this,
what line? What are you reading? Are you looking at this?
When I think of a diss track, Amber, I think of Hit 'Em Up. I think of IFOB. I think of Nas and Jay-Z. You know, F Jay-Z. You been on my dick, nigga. You love my style. Like, when I think of
Mama.
Right, Drake and Pusha T, like going after your baby. You know what I'm saying?
This is a diss track.
That's what I think of when I think of diss track. When I look at this, I see this as just like a critique. You see what I'm saying? Like he's saying, listen, this is how I took it. He's saying, hey, there's this sister online. She know way more about stuff than I do. He said that
stop right there.
He said she know way more about, but just somebody knows.
Hold on, I gotta stop.
Right that they don't deserve a critique though.
No, but see, here's the same thing. It's the same way that white people have to it's like, in order for something to be racist, white people have to agree that it's racist. When at the moment that Black people say it's racist, accept that it's racist.
Right. White people don't have to validate racism.
Yeah. And so at that point, it's like, I know a young lady who knows a whole lot more than me.
Okay.
If she knows a whole lot more than you, let it end there. Like, go do something else. Like, if we're already at that, if you're already at that point in your understanding, then take a moment to say, well, what else does she know? He didn't take a moment to like try to understand her more necessarily. It was like, well, now I'm on the attack, which is what white people do when it comes to racism. It's like, well, I don't think that's racist. Well, I actually think this. Well, how is that racist? Blah, 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 blah. That is not a perfect metaphor and parallel, but it's just to say,
Right.
like what Jackie said, like, can you trust us when we say this, or can you have enough respect at that moment when you say there's a young sister, like literally his line, my IQ is average. There's a young lady out there. She way smarter than me. At that moment, respect. Can you respect it?
I mean, I think I look at it like, okay, so he says, look, listen, she's way smarter than me, and he goes on to say what he says, but then throughout the song, he also says, but let me look at myself. And that was another thing that I mentioned to a lot of my colleagues was the whole song wasn't even about her. Like only maybe the whole song might have been about 2 minutes, I guess, maybe two minutes and some change. And the last third of the song is singing. And if you read the lyrics to the last third of the song, he's doing introspection. And then the first part of the song, he's talking about himself. It's that middle part of the song where he's talking about her. He's not even talking about her for, I would say, even a majority of the song. You see what I'm saying? I think after he says the things about her or makes these critiques about her position or her tone, I don't want to say tone, her approach or her the way in which he interpreted some of the things that she said. I know I'm trying to.
I'm about to do a percentage. I'm going line by line.
Oh, you about to mathematics this thing out.
Amber got the full analysis.
I'm about to do this real quick. Excel right
but then during the last couple of lines of the rap part, he actually looks back on himself and says, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, because then that's when he started going into the Snow on the Bluff part. That's why he calls it Snow on the Bluff. The title of the song is him saying, J. Cole, you fake. You fake. You're not doing enough. This sister, while you don't agree with the way in which she's saying certain things, she has a point. Maybe I am fake. He put that in the title of the song. The song is about him. And so I feel like,
which is why he could have left her out of it completely.
She could have left out of it completely.
Sure, maybe, right? Maybe he could have done it a lot of different ways. He could have, instead of doing a rap, he could have did a verse. He could have done it a lot of different ways. But this is just as an artist, these are the things that maybe this was the stream of consciousness that he might have had. He might have been online one night. He might have been in his room scrolling, found what this sister said. It sparked these thoughts, and then maybe the next day, maybe he got mad. But then he thought about it, and then he said, well, man, maybe she got a point. And then maybe he wrote some lines down. That could have been the whole stream of consciousness, and then he decided to record it. Sure, he could have done it a lot of different ways, but this is just how it was done. Not saying everything about it was right, but all I'm saying is, if we gonna analyze it, then let's, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's look at the whole thing. And so I feel like the thing that we're harping on in the song is those lines where he is talking about the sister and he's saying certain things that a lot of people disagree with, but that's not what the whole song is about. That ain't even what half the song is about. That's just the most exciting part of the song. And so that's, I think that's a part that I feel like we need to put into context. Again, going back to when he said this sister's way smarter than me, and then he says, but if I could, something about the Queen's tone, and then he goes on into that part. I understand that caused a lot of resistance, and I get that part. I understand that part. I guess my question is there a way for a Black man to tell a Black woman, and I brought this question up, is there a way for a Black man to tell a Black woman, hey, you said something that I didn't agree with, or you said something in a way that hurt my feelings, or the approach in which you came at me, I agree with what you're saying, but there was something about it that made me feel uncomfortable. Like, is there space for a Black man to be able to say that to a Black woman without the Black woman feeling as though he is perpetuating patriarchy or tearing her down or oppressing her? Because I think that's the part, and I'm not trying to victimize in any way. I'm not trying to say that Black men are, that J. Cole is the victim. I ain't trying to do none of that. Because at the end of the day, this man got money. He living his life. He doing his thing. Men are not the victims when we talking about gender. All I'm doing is just posing a question. Because for me, it's not about the victim and the oppressor, although in gender it is about that. But that's not what I'm trying to get at. We already know that within patriarchy, men are the ones that are privileged and women are the ones that are disadvantaged. What I'm trying to get at is, how do we get to a space where Black men and Black women can have a conversation where they both can where we can communicate with each other without each other feeling as though we're attacking each other. And so what is going back to what you said, Amber, earlier, language is important. Tone is not the word that we should use. So now that we know that, don't say that. Or like you said, Jackie, it wasn't even just the word tone, but maybe it's some other implications in there that Black men need to figure out. So 2 things. How can a Black man tell it? Because Black women don't always get it right, or Black women don't always say things in a way that Black men can accept. As a person who was raised around a lot of Black women, as a person who knows a lot of Black women, I have been praised by Black women, and then I have been torn down by Black women. Not to say that Black women are the enemy. I'm just saying that nobody's infallible. And so if me and Amber are having a conversation and it gets heated, and Amber says something to me that hurts my feelings, or I take it as a sign of disrespect, how do I tell her, Amber, you said something in a way that I didn't agree with? I didn't like that. I didn't like the tone, or I didn't like the approach, or I didn't like, how can I say that without her feeling like you coming down on me, you trying to change the way I'm saying things? Like, no, I just ain't like how you said that to me. Like, can you say it in a different way to where I can receive it? You see what I'm saying?
I think it's what you just did. You literally said the words that all we need to hear, which is what you did is you took ownership of your feelings and how it affected you, and then you asked a question. You said, the way you said that just hurt my feelings. Can you say, I felt disrespected.
That
don't sound good in a rap.
That's part of it. It shouldn't have been a rap.
It shouldn't have been a rap in the first place.
It shouldn't have been a rap.
This is what begs the question. It's just like, could he have called Noname's people to get her number if he really wanted this
yes,
stuff
exactly.
he's talking about in the song? So it's just like, if you wanted to do that, then you could have done that. If you started with the question of, I know a young woman who's way smarter than me, go talk to her then. Humble yourself for a moment. And what happened in that processing was not humility. What happened was defensiveness. Mm-hmm. That's what this thing is about. See, the way that you even just presented it, John, by saying like, how do you talk to the young woman? You weren't defensive. If you're really seeking understanding, or if you're really seeking connection with that person, you don't go on the defense. You say, that really hurt my feelings. The way you said that. Is there another way? Is it, help me understand what you mean,
mm-hmm.
Or like, this made me feel that way. Mm-hmm. And my question is, what work have you done for you to get to the place where you can express yourself in that way, where you can manage your emotions? That's the work that Black men need to do. And that's how we can begin to bridge the gap between Black women and Black men and Black women, and Black women need to do the same thing, because it's a people thing. It's a communication issue.
And, as you were talking, Amber, it made me think about Insecure and Dr. Rhonda and how she was, in the therapy session with Molly. Molly's going through all these things of like, oh no, well, I cut this person off. I cut this other person off. And Dr. Rhonda said, do you want to be right, or do you want to be in a relationship?
That's good.
And that was a question that, and many of us had to sit with. Mm-hmm. But, I think about, as y'all were talking, like an analogy came to my mind. The common stereotypical image of, a woman is walking down the street past a group of men, and, somebody is like, hey, come here, girl. And she's like, nope, no, thank you. And then they're like, well, F you then, like it just escalates to a point because the response, the emotion in the response is not warranted. Like, you were probably embarrassed by the rejection, you had like whatever other feelings that you didn't work through appropriately, and then that woman then becomes victimized by that man or men not dealing with their emotions appropriately. I mean, quite frankly, that is the pattern that we saw happen again and again during that week. of a woman doing a certain action and men finding that action to be not palatable to them in a certain way, and so they lash out. And I think that that's part of the reason why this just became what it was, because as Black women, we have been in that situation time and time again, whether it was violent or nonviolent, microaggressive. I think every Black woman that I know can identify with being in a situation where a Black man has internal work to do and hasn't done that work, and then we somehow become victimized by that, by them not doing that work, like taking that out on us. And in fact, that whole conversation between Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin, like, is to this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a really good, really good discussion.
I love what you said though. Just bringing up that, do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship? It goes back to our conversation about like our role in the movement, because it's like, and what our opinions are about what other people are doing. So it's just like, is the point connection with the brothers and sisters? Do I want to be right about the approach?
Right.
Like what you're saying, John, like you went to the protest and you're like, I don't really agree with what y'all saying, but I'm in this thing, because relationship was more important for you at that moment. You were more concerned with being in connection with your people, chanting something that mattered versus the language. Now, what I say, I wouldn't want to say that it's majoring in the minors or not. I would want to change that and say it's about connection more than relationship. I mean, more than being right. So it's not about minors, because minors are important. Actually, sometimes minors are really important because it's those microaggressions that matter. You know, it's those little things that show us how systemic racism is still very present in every facet of society.
Yeah.
So if we look at a different framing of it, it's just like, I want relationship, and that's what you chose at the protest, John. And that was beautiful that you chose that, because you didn't have to take that moment away from yourself because you wanted to fixate on you being right. Because I would say that you are absolutely correct about that phrase being not one that you want to say.
And I think even going back to the J. Cole Noname, going to that point or staying right there in that context of, do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship? Hopefully what J. Cole took from it was, you know, it doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong in expressing my feelings, you know, or saying the word tone or not saying the word tone or whatever. It's like, you know what, if this is going to cause division in my relationship with Noname, and then largely in Black men's relationship with Black women, then the most important thing is for me to find a way to get past this and help us get to a place where Black men and Black women feel comfortable with each other, where Black women don't feel attacked by Black men, and Black men feel like they can say things to the most important people in the nation to them, which is the Black woman. And so if we could get to that space where Black men can be more vulnerable with their feelings and say what they want without oppressing or hurting or tearing down Black women, then I think we'll be in a really, really good a good space. So yeah, I like that. And so I think that going back to what you were saying, Amber, when we focus on that relationship and the more we continue to build that relationship between each other, even when you talk about Black men and Black women, maybe we can get to a point where we can say the word tone, or we can express our feelings in a way that's more forthright, but because Black women feel safe with us, then it would be received better. But right now, in general, you know, with what Jackie was saying, with all that stuff that was going on, you know, within that 1 week, like you named 4 Black women who had been, you know, either beaten or murdered by Black men, they don't feel safe with us. So with that being said, we have some work to do on that end before we can get to a point to where we might be able to say something in a way that's a little bit more forthright, but it may not perpetuate this kind of patriarchal ideas. And so yeah, I agree strongly with that relationship. The stronger the relationship, the stronger the love that people feel from you, that's receiving your message, the more comfortable you can be with how you saying it.
Alliterative. Connection has to precede correction.
See, you see how you had to do that? That's what J. Cole had to do when he was writing his verse. He had to make it
Connection
right.
must precede correction. I like that. Somebody write that. Hashtag connection precedes correction.
That could be the name of our little episode here.
Ooh, connection precedes correction. I like that. Mm-hmm.
Or connection must precede correction.
Connection
I don't
must
know.
precede correction. I like that. Yeah, we're gonna put that in there somewhere. Yeah, see, when you trying to write a rap, man, you gotta think about all that. So sometimes you might say things in a way that's not so right because you're trying to make it rhyme. Something about the way the queen tone. Nah, you ain't feeling that.
That's a lot.
That ain't no excuse.
And for the record, 20 of the 51 lines that he had in the song were speaking directly about.
You really did sit there and count that, Amber.
Absolutely.
You said
Amber, this is why I'm messing.
It's 39%. It's not half, but and this is only based on.
It's closer to half than to zero.
Wait. You said 20 out of how many?
The 51 lines. However, that's also based on how many, the site that I went to who organized his rap in that way. So perhaps he didn't organize his rap in lines. I don't know how he wrote it originally. I could go word for word and just say percentage-wise how many words if we really want to go there. But I'm not to do that right now.
That's good.
Lines.
So you said what, 39% of the rap was about her?
If I'm doing it according to the lines that I got from, let's see, azlyrics.com, the way that they organize the lyrics. So of the 51 lines,
I wouldn't have never thought to do that.
20 of them are.
Me either.
Huh?
Dr. Hater just said he wouldn't have thought to do that. And I was like, me either.
And if we want to go word, like all the words, and we say what percentage of this rap, and that's just me, like, because clearly part of this you could say is talking to her directly,
right?
But, that goes.
So 20 out of, so 39%. Yeah, that's a little. That's closer to half than. Yeah. So.
See, and this is the type of information that is useful in making decisions as opposed to just thinking about things. But,
Yo, it's coming out my boy. Oh, might give me a deal. I'm trying to get on that man good side. He might give me a deal.
Or they.
I guess we gotta go ahead and end this before Amber get attacked by
a three-legged lizard.
I just want to say though, the fact that you was able to hold this conversation, find out the percentage of the lines that J. Cole is discussing with Noname, and be able to decipher and deconstruct a whole lizard community down in you are
brilliant.
Amber is brilliant. You understand me?
I know my role, man. I'm trying to make sure I don't get this American flag in the background. But the other things.
4th of July coming up, and niggas gonna forget all about Juneteenth.
4th of Just Lies? Is that what you're
4th of July. 4th of you lie. Why? Oh my God.
That's exactly what it is. All right, folks.
Cool. Well, it has been another episode of Street Academy Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. I don't know. This is probably going to be a part 1, part 2. I don't know what it's going to be because there's a lot going on here. So, I don't know. We might give y'all an episode and then give y'all a bonus. What is that going on? Oh, that's the lizard.
I'm trying to show the little lizard.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah. So I don't know how we gonna break this up. Whatever. But yo, if you enjoy this, let us know. Follow us at J. Paul Grant. What's y'all? Academician.
And at Amber Camila.
At Amber Camilla. Make sure y'all follow us. Y'all subscribe to the podcast, Street Academy Podcast. When you see it, just hit that subscribe button. And y'all find out all the videos that's coming up. And make sure y'all follow us, see what's going on. And that's what it is. So with that being said, peace out. Peace. Who else that you know got their feet upon the neck of the haters, the game and the devil like